Atlantis that has become a legend, believed by many now to be little more than a myth.
According to some investigators, the myth of Atlantis took a decisive turn toward reality in 1968 when Dr. Manson Valentine, an underwater archaeologist working with Charles Berlitz, discovered the Bimini Road, an underwater structure of hundreds of huge cut stones, blocks, and columns that formed two roughly parallel lines that veered like a J off the shore of Bimini's North Island.
When Manson Valentine first discovered the Bimini Road, he explained in his own quiet way, "I found it. I think I found Atlantis." Now, the big debate since then has been whether or not the formation was natural or man-made. When Manson was alive, he continually refuted the geologists' claim that the Bimini Road was a natural formation. He pointed out to them that many of the stones were hard, flint-like micrite, not soft beach rock. He also noted that the straight lines of the formation did not parallel the beach line, as natural stones would. Also, some of the huge flat stones were propped up on the corners to form dolmens, a sure sign of human work. Probably the most convincing evidence to show that the Bimini Road was at least partially man-made are the architectural features of the tenons and mortises in the stones. And then there's the evidence of side-scan sonar, that's sound waves that bounce sideways off objects, and that tells us what's really there. Add to that the scientific tests that I and others have done, which show that the crystalline structures of adjacent stones were dissimilar. This proves that at least some of the stones were not formed in place. At Bimini, we've been working on discovering what's along the wall on the western shelf of the island at the old beach line, which is several hundred feet down and clearly visible. And we've come across some what we call projections or protrusions. They're very striking and really almost out of place there. So we have no conclusions on those yet, but we're still working on it. We've also ran across some terraces, and this terracing is very reminiscent of ancient cultures. Now, we can't decide whether it's just natural erosion or whether these are agriculture terraces or living terraces, but they are terraces.
The evidence that humans put the Bimini Road in place is impressive, and many researchers since Valentine have linked the Bimini Road to the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis. But what is there in the myth of Atlantis that can shed light on the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle?
The Bermuda Triangle is sometimes linked to the lost continent of Atlantis because some theorists maintain that Atlantis existed in that area of the Bahamas. The whole Bermuda Triangle area is linked to electromagnetic vortices and to unusual underwater structures such as the Bimini Road. It may be possible that a combination of these factors may be responsible for the periodic strange occurrences that happen in the Bermuda Triangle. What's more, only about 2% of the ocean floor has been mapped. Is it any wonder then that lost continents like Atlantis in the Atlantic or the lost land of Lemuria in the Pacific can go unproven and undiscovered for century after century?
Does all of this bring us closer to an explanation for the mysterious disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle? Or are we just adding myth upon myth? Space windows that automatically open? The lost city of Atlantis? What should we believe? What can we believe? Before we come to any hard and fast conclusions, you should know there's more, much more to the Bermuda Triangle than has yet to be explained. It isn't just beams of light or beams of energy that punctuate this enigmatic puzzle. There's also some sort of fog or mist that seems to have a variety of peculiar effects on ships and planes. And no less an authority than Albert Einstein said the Bermuda Triangle could be a cosmic doorway leading to a different time and space continuum. The question is, who has the key to that door? Are we looking perhaps at a Bermuda Triangle stargate, a sort of interdimensional transit point? Is there a U.S. naval base in the Bahamas currently functioning as an underwater Area 51? Does this base employ top security measures that have nearly landed unsuspecting tourists in prison? Dr. Michael Preisinger, a German historian with a doctorate in history and sociology, never imagined or expected to have anything to contribute to the controversy of the Bermuda Triangle, a subject he once dismissed. But his own personal encounter with this unexplained phenomenon changed all of that.
I'm also trained as a scuba diving instructor, and in 1995 my company sent me to the Bahamas to develop tourist programs for scuba divers. In the course of my work, I heard persistent reports of persons on boats who had experienced sudden deviations in their compass readings, which had put them off course. My curiosity as a historian got the better of me, and I decided to look for magnetic field anomalies in the places people had reported and bring back exact figures for those deviations. We found clear evidence of magnetic deviations at a majority of the half-dozen locations that I investigated. When I communicated these figures to a number of physicists around the world, every one of them said that such magnetic field anomalies could only be caused by briefly appearing micro-wormholes.
Professor John Wheeler of Princeton University first gave the name wormholes to what he believes are transit tunnels between different dimensions of reality. According to Professor Wheeler, these wormholes may be only a gigafraction of a square inch in size, the number 1 preceded by 33 zeros, preceded by a decimal point. And he thinks these mini black holes are bits of virtual matter, that they only exist for a very limited time.
In a joint radio interview with me in 1997, Dr. Grażyna Fazar, a highly respected physicist in Berlin, commented on my magnetic findings in the Bermuda Triangle. She said, "From a physicist's point of view, gates to hyperspace can be the only reasonable explanation for these mysterious deviation fields." These startling results led me to investigate, first with skepticism, but then with growing interest, some of the other mysterious Bermuda Triangle phenomena. Researchers have linked both compass deviations and the high incidence of UFO sightings in the area with stargates, or interdimensional transit points.
But Dr. Preisinger's research got even more interesting when researchers told him that many of the anomalous sightings took place near the Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center, or AUTEC, an American naval base on the Bahamas island of Andros. Although the facility only covers 1 square mile on land, it actually comprises 1,670 square miles of the surrounding ocean. Could Dr. Preisinger have stumbled across AUTEC's secrets hidden deep in these waters?
I was surprised that AUTEC offered its research facilities to non-military organizations and even supplied special top security areas to all its customers, the same ultra-top security as for its own projects. In 1997, a group of duck hunters planned to hunt on a creek about a mile from the AUTEC base. They walked right by prohibited area signs, thinking the signs were old and outdated. Suddenly, they were surrounded by camouflage personnel and the colonel questioned them for hours, threatening to turn them over to the Bahamian police and certain imprisonment. The colonel seemed especially interested in what the hunters had to say about the power boats, but eventually he told them he would believe their duck hunting story if they would swear to keep quiet about the power boats on the creek. And then the colonel released the hunters.
Why was Autek conducting tests on torpedo boats on a creek when they had 1,670 square miles of ocean in their designated testing area? Wouldn't it have made more sense to test a torpedo boat and its torpedoes on the open sea? Preisinger has received numerous reports from people who claim to have witnessed strangely shaped metallic aircraft that appeared to be hovering on the surface or moving rapidly and erratically in the waters off Andros Island. Could it be that all the talk about UFOs is just a case of mistaken identity?
A Viennese businessman told me that once he was yachting off the coast of Andros, not far from Autek, and saw what he thought was a whale lying motionless at the surface. But with his binoculars he realized that it was really the upper part of a shiny, metallic, 150 feet long, cigar-shaped hull lying motionless on the water. As he approached within a nautical half-mile of the strange craft, it suddenly started to move with incredible speed along the surface of the water, leaving nearly no wake, and then it vanished underwater.
Has a lone German scuba diver happened onto an underwater Area 51? Could Autek, like its alter ego, Area 51 in Nevada, be ground zero for governmental conspiracy and the suppression of extraterrestrial information? Or is the whole UFO idea just a cover for what's really going on?
A Navy engineer came to Autek in 1985 to help improve the propulsion efficiency of nuclear-powered submarines. He was surprised to receive only a Level 2 security classification. And he was also surprised when he was given ideas, materials and tools that he thought were way beyond the current knowledge of engineering science. But that worked extremely well for the project.
As far as this engineer was concerned, the Navy had access to some sort of advanced technology that seemed to be far beyond the knowledge of the best engineers. The story soon took an unexpected and sinister turn.
A Level 2 mechanic became curious about all this talk. So one night he sneaked into the top-secret area. The next morning, exhausted from not sleeping all night, he told of seeing an alien ship inside the area and said that the Navy was cooperating with the aliens. A few days later, the base authorities unofficially reported that the mechanic was suffering from malaria from a previous assignment at the Panama Canal and was at the hospital. Then, 2 weeks later, 2 curious sergeants from the maintenance department secretly entered the top-secret area. They claimed they saw a very strange vessel they described as about 200 feet long and cigar-shaped with a smooth surface. 3 days later, while supervising the moving of a huge turbine of a ship, the lifting crane collapsed and killed both enlisted men. Then, when the engineer and a few others attempted to speak with a mechanic in the base hospital, they learned from official reports that the mechanic had died of malaria. The engineer himself was told that the strange craft from the top-secret area was only an empty hull of a new-styled submarine. And then suddenly, and for no reason, he was transferred to another naval base.
Dr. Preisinger is not the only researcher honing in on the possibility of military involvement with so-called UFOs and interdimensional travel.
We're dealing with something which is interdimensional. We're probably dealing with something which has been around for a very long time, not just since 1947. And the UFO phenomenon is something highly complex and is composed of many, many different aspects.
Well, you have to ask the question, are they from another planet? We don't know the answer to that. A lot of people believe they're extraterrestrial. A lot of other people believe that they are from other dimensions, parallel universes, time travelers, that they're us at 2 million years in the future, maybe separated from our reality by some thin psychic membrane.
Has anyone gone through that doorway that we know about? More importantly, are there any witnesses to such an occurrence?